Hello and welcome back to the Luna Rosa Ranch channel, where we are training a lovely off-the-track thoroughbred mare named Drama today. Drama is in her 6th session today, and she originally had some issues with anxiety and self-regulating her emotions. So we've been working on getting her more comfortable in her own skin. So in this session today, she honestly was so relaxed that I thought she might fall asleep. So you see, I have to get a little bit more energetic with the flag there to get her going. She, in this session, keeps her focus mostly on me. I watch those ears as they go around. The first few sessions we did in a more comfortable place in a pasture where she could see her pasture mates, and I had to remind her with a gentle kind of tug on the lead rope almost every stride to bring her attention back to me because it was so focused on other things going on. So I'm super happy to see that she checks in with me often. She's stretching down nice and low and looks really relaxed and happy. And I make it a point to always reward her when she's in a good frame of mind. So whenever she's stretching and relaxed and long and low, I let her have a walk break. So when she holds that position for a while, you'll see here I let her come on down and take a little bit of a break. So horses learn by the release of pressure, and most of them, even if they seem to be anxious, really like to preserve energy. So here she is stretching and reaching down. She gets a little walk break, and then she comes right back up. And that time, you might have noticed I didn't need to wave my flag at her at all. I just pointed with my left hand. So I think it's always important that this horse is very sensitive anyways, but any horse can become very sensitive to commands if you're super consistent with them. So I always do the intention in my thought and my feeling of wanting to trot. Then I stretch my hand out to point them in the direction of trot, and then I back that up with my flag if needed. Ultimately, I'd like to just be able to bring my life and energy up in my body, and maybe a slight movement of my hand is all she needs to understand the cue. And that's exactly the same thing you do to get a horse to move off your leg better. So we've done a lot of this work in the field and in the arena every day. So she's gotten really good at not crowding my space as much, yielding the hindquarters to turn, and she's nice and relaxed and shaking it out. You can see she's not carrying much tension there, but she was ready to pop off and start trotting really quickly, which is cool. We want the relaxation, but also with the attention. So very nicely done. This side, she's a bit stiffer. I find that she doesn't want to bend in her rib cage as much on this side. And then later on in the session, I work with her on a little bit tighter of a circle to try to get a little bit more bend. But we're still looking for exactly the same thing here. Nice, relaxing stretch over the top line and paying attention to the person instead of what's going on in her environment. So a lot of people get really focused on what their horse is doing and what's going on in the environment. But there's two other pieces to the puzzle of what's happening in every relationship that you have, well, really with human beings or with animals. Number one is what's going on with you. Number two is what's going on with them. Number three is what's going on between the two of you. And number four is what's going on in the environment. And people tend to be hyper-focused on what's going on with their horse and what's going on with maybe the environment, so much so that they might blame, someone opening a lawn chair or something for the reason that their horse lost their mind. But they aren't really thinking too much about 1 and 3, which is what is your energy doing, and then what is the communication like between you and your horse. So when I talk about reminding her to keep her focus on me, we're having a conversation with each other. And you might see me jiggle my right hand. It doesn't take very much to remind her, like, hey, focus in on what we're doing here. She can feel the weight of that lead rope. And if she doesn't respond, meaning that I don't get that ear looking at me whenever I ask for it, then I might have to do a slight tug, whatever the minimum amount of pressure it takes to get her attention refocused. Okay. She got a little bit confused there, but she eventually yields to the pressure and turns. And with just a point, I don't like that the head popped up so much there. We'd like to see her a little bit more balanced going to the upper transition, but it's not a big deal. I wouldn't worry about it. Just keep working on up and down transitions until she's able to lift herself a little bit better. Head's a little bit high still here. I'm asking for a little bit of a smaller circle, and I want to see her bend in the rib cage more, and still rewarding when I think it gets to a point that looks good. Want to set her up for success and make her feel like she's a star. Yeah, and horses come out of the box kind of counterbent. They don't really begin working with a nice bend in their body. They want to stay away from that pressure, so getting her to be nice and soft on an inside bend will be a goal for the coming weeks, and that translates into the saddle work obviously very well for dressage and anything else. I think that side went pretty well. When we come in on this side and I start asking her to trot on a little bit of a smaller circle, I feel like she had a bit more expression in her eyes. She was a little bit quicker in her steps and wasn't quite as relaxed. And she's not truly bending around. But it'll get better and better. It's just picking up a point that's improvement on what you saw that day and rewarding that improvement, and then seeing what you are working with the next day. Gets better and better on this side. I don't think there's necessarily anything that's different about this horse on this side. I think that we lead our horses from the left, and they get really used to seeing us out of that eye. And if you don't work with your horse equally on the other side, they can be a little bit more nervous about pressure coming from that side. She'd much rather look at me from her left eye. Okay, she's gotten a lot better at that. Now I had set up this little course here for a different online competition, but I figured she has never seen, I mean, she's seen me mess with some stuff on the ground, but I've never drug anything with her, so I figured I'd be the horse today and drag this big old pole and see what she thought about it. Never done this with her. So now she hears it there and she's like, what in the heck? But I'm super happy with the end result of this reaction. I just ignore it and tell her, hey, we got work to do. You know, you stay over there out of my way. I'm pulling this thing. You're responsible for your own space. And she gets a chance to look at it. I'm not mad at her for looking at it. Her responsibility is to stay out of my way. And eventually she starts to realize that it's not going to get her. And you can see her expression change and get a lot softer. I mean, she's still aware of it, but I think that this is a good first step. And funnily enough, I practice the skills for this after the end of every session. I make her walk with me to go get the pooper scooper and then walk around and pick up poop. And she's got to stay out of my way while I got stuff in my hands and just kind of follow. So she's gotten pretty used to that role. There I got tired, had to resituate myself. And another great sign that there's some real improvement happening is she was a really nervous pooper. I mean, I have never seen so much nervous pooping. So each session, like at the first session, maybe 8 piles of poop. Just absolutely a lot of poop. Today was the first time she only pooped one time, and it was solid poop. She didn't have any nervous poops at all today, which is awesome. I know, TMI, but for horse people, you get it. So that went well. Now we're going to see what she thinks about going through this little gate. She obviously goes through a lot of gates in her normal life, but being in the arena in a different kind of gate, she doesn't care about it at all. She's cool with it. So I think that would go well under saddle. And then the tarp is the first, so this is not her first time going over the tarp. Her first time was two sessions ago, and she was terrified of the tarp. I think that was the first challenge really that we overcame together, because I really wanted to do something that would build her confidence. And once she got through that, she really, now I think she thinks, just like anybody, when you go through something really scary or challenging and you make it through to the other side and realize you didn't die, it builds your confidence. So each little thing we can do with her where she comes out on the other side feeling like a winner boosts her confidence, and it puts a tool in her toolbox for how she can mentally keep herself from having a panic attack in the future, because we're not going to be able to control situations all the time. Now, I was just checking her out to see how she would feel about her lead rope being thrown over her back. So I started by rubbing the rope all over her shoulder, which she was cool with, but then when I rubbed it over her flank, she didn't want to stand still for that rope being rubbed over her. So that gives me a clue into something we could work on next time. I think it was Ray Hunt that said there's no bad place to hang a rope on a horse. Getting him used to all those kinds of sensations can only do good. The main thing here is that whenever I'm rubbing her with it and she's moving, I don't stop the rubbing until she stops, because we want to reward her for being in a calm state of mind, so that part of that is standing still. So I rub her with it and then remove the pressure by rubbing her flank whenever she's good and stand still. And then I just pitched the lead rope over her back a couple times. She sees it on the ground, kind of pulling up towards her from her perspective, touching her belly in different areas. She's looking at it, but she does a good job of standing still. I'd like to ultimately see no reaction at some point, but I think she did a great job with that. And then, just like everything, we got to do it on the other side. And as we could suspect, since she has been a little bit touchier on this side, I think she was a little bit more concerned about me rubbing stuff on her hip. She felt like she couldn't stand still, which I'm not mad at her for moving. I mean, she just felt like she just couldn't take it standing still. So we'll try that, 300-400 more times, and then eventually she'll be cool with standing still with stuff being rubbed all over her. But I'm really proud of her. I feel like she has some really good skills to handle stressful situations that might come up in the future. And I think she has the tools now to be ready to try to do some more interesting stuff. The next steps will be checking her out at the mounting block and see if she can keep her calmness there. So I look forward to sharing her progress with you later on in the future. Thanks for watching.